Okay.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
awesome. Okay, so Alex Ayers. Anybody who knows, my profile knows that Alex Ayers is featured on there a lot. I first found Alex actually through. Okay, so I found Alex. It was like a weirdest like I just stumbled
I'm really
on.
curious about this.
Yeah, so I just like stumbled on you. It was like you may have been a new or you may have posted on Reddit one time in the Suno subreddit, and so I was just clicking on people randomly from time to time. This was I think before the radio feature rolled out, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And you had only like 6 or 7 songs at that time. There was the one like that was like PC something. It was like a had a picture of a little old PC on it. You had the Queen one, which was your most popular one.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, embarrassing.
and then you had Makes It Real, which was like
Yeah,
so cool. And I think the color blue either came on shortly after or was already there. And I was like, how am I supposed to get in
that sounds
contact
right.
with this guy? Um, Nothing on there. And then I was on the subreddit, and then you posted on Reddit at some point. You're like, yeah, this is my stuff. I was clicking on, and it was yours. So then I was able to just comment. And so that was how I encountered Alex Ayers. It was just a series of happenstance. But yeah, basically, this was around the time when, a lot of the early people were first coming in. I'm technically late compared with like Jonathan Fly, Caker. They've been here for forever, but which is forever in machine learning terms. It's like a couple
Yeah,
months.
yeah.
So how did you find Suno? Like, how did you get here?
Yeah, so um I can't recall when, maybe like April or May, what I had been doing was I was experimenting with the images and video and that sort of thing. And then I was like, oh, what's music looking like these days? And so the first thing I did was, just did a Google search and I found stability audio.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, this meets the definition of
Right.
AI music, but it sucks. And
Yeah.
so I thought like, that's the limitation of what things were. And then I don't know, I think maybe like Suno was on like a number two or number three on Google. And then I just clicked into there and I was like, oh, what's this all about? Let me just write the dumbest, stupid song ever. And I did. And I was like, oh, this is neat. I will go into details what it was. It was about a friend and what his kids said. And so I sent it to him like, ha ha ha. And his kids were quoting my song back to him all the time. Um, and so I never posted it because it again the contents of it would be very inappropriate for children to be saying, but they were. Um, so yeah, and it was just like it was like on the free plan, and I thought I did a couple others just stupid songs, and then I was like, oh, well, if I take my old stuff, my old music, when I used to write, and
Hmm.
put it in there and see what it does. And yeah, it was really cool. And so yeah, just from that point, it would have been like May or so, I think.
Hmm. Wait, so
That's when I
you
really, really got
you
into
you said
things.
you had old songs. Like, did you used to perform or like were you a musician at some point, whether a hobbyist or professionally?
Yeah, yeah, I go way back. I was doing like stuff like this when I was like, like 6 or 7, writing like plays and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then moving into like parody music in a early teens, and then like 16 or 17, um, I used a keyboard I had, a small like little Casio, to just start writing electronic music
But you were
back
captured
when
by the kazoo, was my understanding. Was your prime? No, I think.
yeah, true,
I
yeah,
mean, I could
and it never
totally
went
see that.
anywhere.
If you told me that, I would. Yeah, and amazingly, my career ended there. No, but I mean,
I think
the
it's
strange
funny you
instruments
mention
you
that.
use are remarkable to me. So that's why I mention it. Is you have a lot of interesting sounds that you use in your music.
Yeah, so like the only instrument I'm trained on is the saxophone.
Oh,
And
okay.
oddly enough, I did classical saxophone, which is the least cool. Like you picked saxophone up for jazz, and I was doing classical saxophone,
Interesting.
which was a thing. Yeah, I did that when I was like 13 or so.
Oh, were you in like
I
bands?
had no, I didn't fall into the soul ska scene,
Okay.
if that's what you mean by bands.
No, no, I meant like a big band, like band
Oh,
class. Like, were you in?
yeah, 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 yeah. I did band class. I was doing like ragtime music, so I had like a little arm, one of those like Dixieland style like red, white, and blue arm bands and a little like hat and everything, and it was a lot of fun. Um, yeah. So where was I going with that? Yeah. I was trained on saxophone, but then I was like, I have money, I'll just start buying instruments. So I had like guitars and bass and synthesizers. I owned a theremin.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I've a sitar,
Awesome.
and it's sort of just like, you know, my take on it has always been like, um, don't worry about being good at what you do.
Hmm.
Just try to make the sounds you hear, and if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
just go with. That's actually very similar to what the Taboo Vector said, who I interviewed last a couple days ago. Was
yeah, I saw that.
when
It was good.
when he started out, he would just make a sound, and
Yeah.
he didn't know what the heck he was doing, but he knew what progression sounded good. So you just mess around until you get something that sounds good. I did similar stuff on keyboards when I was growing up. Yeah, I think that's really just where music comes from. So I think so basically you were classically trained in saxophone. You just
Yep.
had a bunch of instruments that you're just pushing buttons on and seeing what you can get out of them, and you found Suno in the end. But in terms of your songs, do you like write all of your own songs, or do you use a hybrid model, or are your songs
Um.
AI from Suno? I assume not,
Oh God, no. No, I think that was probably the very first song I did was AI. I don't know if at the time you could do custom lyrics, or maybe you could, and I didn't realize in the UI there was a button you could click that said like custom mode.
yeah, I can't remember. I think there may
I
have been,
can't.
but nobody knows about it in the beginning. It's like takes a few tries.
y- Yeah, so it was. Yeah, so the answer to that question, no, I don't use AI lyrics. I don't use LLMs. No, it's all. I write everything. Um, lyrically, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
So you do.
I mean, other than obviously, like I don't speak a million languages, so like maybe I'll write it in like I don't know something and then translate it to Chinese or Japanese or whatever.
Oh yeah, what led you
Um,
to do that? Yeah, so you have like songs in everything from I think you have a couple in Cambo. No, it's in like Khmer, I think it's called or something. You have some random languages in there.
yeah, so I think the first song I did in different languages was High School Spanish,
Okay.
and
Oh
the
yeah.
idea of that one, yeah, that was one of my trending ones. I like that song. But the idea behind that was one, I took high school Spanish, but two, the goal of that was an experiment in seeing like what happens if you oscillate between two different languages
Hmm.
um, quickly in Suno to see if it trips itself up, and it does, and it created this like really bizarro effect that I really like. And then from there, it was kind of like, um, why this is much further down with Suno and sort of thing, but it's like why limit yourself to just English
Right.
and go out and experiment with different sounds. And I think the thing you got to be cognizant of when you're doing that is like you don't want to if you take a language and you translate that into whatever, those words might mean what they mean, but the meaning they carry is going to be very different. So I
Hmm.
try to be real careful with that. Like I might translate a single word where it like it means joy or love or something, and it's
Right.
not going to be
Not gonna
I don't know murder your
accidentally
parents or
create.
something.
Right. Or
Yeah,
just something
yeah,
that's
I don't want to.
culturally
Yeah,
like you're just not aware and you miss something. It happens all the time. I agree.
yeah, I don't want like Interpol showing up and
Right.
and shutting me down for hate lyrics.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So what's your creative process like when you're making? Oh, so okay, creative process we kind of went through, but what I mean more is like with Suno, right? When you're trying to get a good song, like how do you do that? Right. I think a lot of people struggle with like like we have a guy messaging both of us right now who's basically he's trying to make a good pop
Yeah,
song.
yeah.
So what's your obviously you can't go into everything, but like what is your process?
Yeah, so kind of I don't know, sometimes I mean if you just mean like songwriting or you mean like finding a Suno sound
let's
I like.
let's start with the Suno song. I actually would love to go back to songwriting since you write all your own lyrics, but let's start with like how do
Yeah.
you get it to
So
sound good for yourself? You know.
yeah, so it's a lot of it's like experimentation. So I have that prompt magic tool I've started using recently just because it's easier because I
Yeah.
can just iterate through and try these different ideas out. Before that, I was like, I was trying to imagine how, I was doing straight pretty pretty standard like rock or folk kind of stuff for a
Hmm.
bit. But then I imagined like like how bands work, like Talking Heads or geez, his name escapes me, where they kind of like they go through this period of
Yeah.
exploring different sounds. And so I was like, well, what if I go through this period where I like explore Indian music or African music, and
Beck.
then
Yeah,
from that,
Beck did that a
yeah,
lot.
go ahead.
No, I was just saying Beck. Beck was the one I was thinking of as an example. He went through so many
Oh,
different
yeah,
music.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah.
So it's kind of like I imagine myself as this real person like traveling the world and then researching and like, oh, what kind of music exists in Africa that I don't know about, and that's how I found about like
The
Gumbe
yeah, that was in
and
Moombahton. Was that it? Moombat is that from
Mubutan.
Africa?
Mubutan, I think
I think it's
I
South
think it's
Africa.
Latin America.
Oh, it might
Or
be
is
North
it?
America.
Yeah, I can't recall, but like, I was kind of like, oh, what are the traditional like folk music in there? Or what's the traditional dance music there? And then, just hopping on Wikipedia or Google or whatever and just searching for those sorts of sounds and then seeing, do I like what this sounds like? Can I work with this sort of thing?
Very. So
Um,
you did a
so
lot. So
yeah.
you do research basically, it's
Yeah,
more or
yeah.
less. You're looking for new sounds, then you're experimenting with those new sounds, combining them together in your prompt. When you combine stuff, I notice. So I know a little bit of why you do some of the stuff, but um, for the when you were doing your styles, you often put like just random characters in. It seems like almost. What? How do you determine like what's your reasoning behind that, or do you just do it because it looks cool and and you like it?
Yeah, so I think you take a more like I don't want to say clinical, but I
Mm-hmm.
think you take a more like deep dive approach to how you're doing things
Sure.
versus like when I do it, sometimes I'm like, oh, you'll see like I do a lot of like talk box
Mm-hmm.
slash vocoder,
Yes.
and I just do that because I like how it looks visually.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or I'll put like I have this little guy that will sometimes show up and say make it sound super Spanish.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Or
and I know,
Mr. Wheatley's like fourth period
oh yeah,
whatever
yeah.
class or whatever. Those are all great. Yeah.
Yes. So some of the stuff is like you can do prompt hiding.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think a lot of people use prompt hiding to, I don't know, hide how they're creating music. You can look that stuff up. I have a tool to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I like it because it becomes like this other like narrative on top of what you're creating. So sometimes I'll use the weird stuff strictly to like get people to look at it and be like, well, that's strange. Why is that prompt that way? And then just cut into it and like 2 seconds in, and that's when I use like the real style.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that, like Mr. Wheatley's high school class
Right.
was like built on an upload that I then cut into. And so it makes it look like
It's that's the
here I designed this prompt to do this, but really it's something else.
I'm wondering. It's very interesting because I realized I actually, for some reason, it did not occur to me to do that for the longest time. I mean, I still, or it didn't occur to me that you could do it, which is kind of creative and fun. But I still wonder if Suno is pulling the data and if it's going to slowly influence so you can put things in like Mr. Wheatley's. Because later on, I used that prompt
Oh yeah.
verbatim and it made that like really strange classical piece. Like I used your that one
Oh
just really
yeah.
stood out for me. The fourth period class or whatever, it like creates. There was that, and there was one that was like a space, like welcome to space
Oh, the
world.
planetarium one.
Yeah, the planetarium one with the Coca Cola guy
Yeah,
or whatever who's doing
yeah, that
classical
was really, really
guitar.
good.
Yeah, it was fun, and it
Yeah.
came out of that. So it's just very interesting to see your prompts. I think they're definitely some of the most creative that I see in Suno. And I did, and you're one of the people who I've pulled a great deal from over the time you've been here. Mostly with a lot of these genres you find, I'm very just like, it's almost like you're like a nice filter. So this is one of the reasons I recommend people to always check out your pages. You just find a lot of good stuff, like a lot of good musical styles that I want to know about. Like I wouldn't have thought to put atonal. They use atonal a lot of times, which I just little
Yeah.
things like that that
Well,
just
sometimes I mean sometimes it's a joke, right? So sometimes I come up with styles like, I don't want to go down too down, but I look at trending, and I'll
mm-hmm,
look at like the types of prompts they're using, and I think like, oh, like imagine people that trend are like the biggest superstars out there. What if I kind of take this kind of subversive take where I look at the prompts they're doing and kind of like reverse it.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
if someone's saying like perfect audio, blah 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 blah, I'm
Right.
like, well, imperfect audio, terrible musicianship, et cetera, and then see what I come up with,
Yeah.
and it's sort of like a gag, like the song I did. Um, what's it called? Like a Prisoner to the Chorus, where
Okay.
where Cake Remix he used Miami, and he said like Miami does something, and so I said what's the most extreme, and it's just like Miami a billion times to see what happens, and it ended up cutting out all the music, and so like yeah, it did something, but probably was not what he was alleging that type of prompting would do. So
Well, yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, and yeah, for sure. Also, um, uh, when you there was a period of time before we you were really on Discord. I remember where you would I would basically almost communicate with you through songs. Like at one point, you would take over some of the songs that I was writing or do. This
Oh,
is extensions or whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
With the symphony or whatever it is. So it's a lot of fun stuff. I really, I think the community has grown a lot, but it was definitely some really great contributions early on. All right, so beyond that, if you had to give a newcomer some sort of advice other than making sure they click custom and open up
Yeah,
the style box and all that
yeah.
stuff, what would you be your like quickest tool or like quickest thing you could tell someone to improve their songwriting right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest thing would be, you trending is right there. And so, I would honestly, I would look at trending because those people are writing music and it's, um, there's not a lot of heavy distortion in the sort of
Mm-hmm.
stuff they're doing. And so you find a song that you like and just see like, oh, what if I copy their prompt and let me see how it sounds.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like the person we were talking to the other day, like, you know, don't get, don't get hung up on like trying to find like the, like I have this song in my head. I want to
Yeah.
perfectly recreate that song. Like you just can't do that. Like, maybe you could through spending a ton and ton of money, but you know, just I would say just don't get hung up on that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'd also say start simple. Like don't do the Yolkhead or Alex Ayers approach of just like totally bizarro stuff
Right.
and then right, you know what I mean? Like
You need to learn the tool.
I
Yeah.
would stick with like, if you like R&B, do R&B. If you like rock and roll, do rock and roll. Very simple, one genre prompt and see what you get.
Okay.
And then slowly start to add on things to there.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's actually much better advice than I would have given for that. So this is why I have people. I like to interview people. I'm telling
Yeah,
people
yeah.
like, okay, what you got to do is you got to like intersect all the. And it's like I forget that I started out doing exactly that. You have to start somewhere to learn.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's
Yeah, yeah.
great advice. Okay, songwriting. You mentioned that. Now I'm going to circle back to that with my ADHD. Your songwriting is great in my opinion. I got to tell you, The Color Blue. When I first heard it, literally like teared up. That song is like wonderful. And you have several songs like that where I think people like they see it or hear it and they're just like, and it's specifically the songwriting. Like how do you do it? What's your? I mean, I obviously can't teach one to be a songwriter in a day, but like, what's your?
Yeah.
How do you get so good at songwriting?
So, I think there's a couple of things. So, one is definitely the approach I take with like hallucinating lyrics.
You do a lot of
So,
hallucinogens. Okay, that makes sense. I can do part of
yeah, all the time.
that.
Like right now, this is just
This is
this
all
is
an
this is
imaginary.
this, this is my office right
Yeah.
here. It just looks like this. It's not a background. This is my bathroom. Is where I'm recording this from. Um, where was I going with that? Oh, so like when you see like so when I do my sort of my lyrics, what you'll see is they almost always start with these just like wild strings of characters.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't, I should look to see when I first started doing this, and I don't remember why I started. I was probably just mad or something, and so I'll just do that as a very first pass because that will force Suno to start hallucinating lyrics, and I don't
Ah.
take and I and so I don't take Suno's lyrics because I don't, I could type neon a million times without doing a hallucination approach, but what it gives you is it gives you a melody.
Mhm.
And so it gives you a vocal melody that it feels like that's the approach Suno wants to naturally follow down for the
Mm.
song. And so it gives you two things. It gives you, well, do I like the melody that I'm hearing? And two, if I hear this melody, what am I hearing?
Mhm.
Because I know like Jonathan Fly is big into he'll do hallucinations and that will be the song,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is that's totally cool. But I want to write my own lyrics, so
Right.
I'll get it to hallucinate, and then I'll basically sing along to the hallucinations to find what's the words
That could
that to
fit in
me
there.
sound like what it's saying
Uh huh.
that could fit in there, and then that will drive the ultimate narrative of the whole song. So if I start out saying like, oh, the words I'm picking now are happy or they're sad,
Mhm.
well, it's going to be something sad, and let me just draw from experience and write a song about that. That would be my other big tip for I guess my next if once you get past like rock and roll, would be trying to do this sort of thing with hallucinations for trying to find vocal melodies. I just find it to be really, really helpful
And you
to
induce
um
the
to
hallucinations
work.
just using special characters, or
Yeah, you just use the special characters, and it's the special characters are words. Like some of the stuff is like I don't know, they're non-English characters.
uh-huh.
Like there's like the weird B and that sort of thing. So they are legitimate sounds that a human would make, but they're all they're not in a word. So Suno
Right.
doesn't know what to do with it, so
And
it
it
just
just
kind of
starts
makes
saying
something up.
stuff. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
and so
smart. Yeah, that's good.
yeah, and I would do it that way because I think, at least what I find there's a lot of stiffness in a lot of Suno songs
Hmm.
because I think if you try to come at Suno by like just feeding it your entire song up front,
Hmm.
like I think Suno was like, well, okay, I'll be less creative here. You're telling me that this is the kind of vocal melody or like the phonetics you want to use. Let
Right.
me just try to cram it in. And I feel like you get a lot of like it sounds very robotic to me.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of songs that
You
are
get a lot
done
of
that way.
pauses where it's like, why did we pause here? And think I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like you have a this like engine that's running and you just put like an extreme you just like cut off the fuel by like only letting it trickle in. It's not really going to run properly. I see the exact same thing also with heavy formatting use when you put it all together in the first place. I actually did an
Yeah,
experiment.
it does seem to. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, yeah, I'll finish. I did an experiment along the same lines of what you're just saying right now, where I realized I was like, I think that it's especially with line breaks, it's learned to interpret it as like a
Mm,
certain amount of time. It didn't used to be
yeah.
this thorough with that. Now it's very thorough. Where if you have a line break, it will not go straight through most of the time. It'll pause for a second and like do a little instrumental or something. And that's actually not desirable to me because I like you. I approach it the same way you do, but from the other end. I put in a ton of lyrics in the past with no formatting, and I just hear what it wants the song to be for those lyrics, and then I just lean into that, which is how I got into a lot
Hmm.
of music that I don't listen to, but that I learned to like by doing this. Whereas on your end, you're actually having to make the melody, listening to hear what the lyrics are, and then inserting those in where they exist, which I think is also a great way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like 100. Like obviously, it's not 100% of the songs that I've done that way.
Mm-hmm.
Some songs I do go into with some idea of what I want to write about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like what's it called? What song was it? Oh, Absence of Trains.
Absence of
Like that
trains.
song, Absence of Trains was about the only way you can. I forget what it was like. The only way you can get to Rockport is there's no trains on the tracks because if there were trains on the tracks, you might as well just walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so so there was this kind of thing where it's like if I'm just out and about and I just have this thought, I'm like let me try to build a song around just that interesting thought that I had.
Did you
Like
used to
Taboo
do
Vector.
this before you got into Suno, or is this like basically like new for you? Like you're now like officially a notebook carrying like poetry guy. You know what I mean? Like I know this because I
So
used to be this way, and I was always like, God, I look like such a smug asshole because I'd be walking around with like a notepad, I'd be like, write that down, write that down. I just saw a burger fall on the ground. Like that's
I just keep it all in the noggin. Like there's a phrase Taboo Vector said, and he's non-English speaking, and he had this very curious way of describing something that was what, I wrote it down, I think. It's something like his publishers rejected his work because he had too much commas and too much ands,
yeah, yeah, I
and it
remember.
was and the expression was
If I have to,
oh, it was such a good.
I
Hold on,
yeah.
what was it called? Oh, riddled with wrongs. I love that.
Yeah,
I've never heard that expression. So I do that too. So like riddled with wrongs. Okay, now it's stuck in my head.
that's a good one.
Someday there'll be something that shows up where I use like riddles of wrongs. Um, I guess we're going back to words. Oh yeah. So you've done a couple songs where I noticed use the word specifically,
I remember, and you
and when
wrote a
you use
song
the
about
word,
it.
and I wrote a song about the word specifically because yeah,
Specifically.
just yeah, I did. I've done other songs based off of other words. Really reeling off the track from this
No,
thing.
no, dude,
What
that's
you originally asked. Like Faloo. Faloo is another song I wrote based off of someone on Discord.
oh yeah, Folio.
Just
I remember that
he
one.
was Faloo is a particular color of red that people in Sweden paint their barns. And there was a guy on Discord who I never reached out to after the fact. I just mentioned him. Oh, I've been thinking about your red barns in Sweden all day, and I wrote this song about the red barns in Sweden
Yeah.
because he said that, and like again, he just said this expression like he was complaining about tourists coming to Sweden and being all excited about these buildings, and he was upset because the buildings that they were excited about were had been built by the Dutch. They weren't actually Swedish buildings. And he said, like, if you want to see a real Swedish building, look to our red barns. And I looked up the red barns, and like, I went to Google Maps and I was driving around towns in Sweden looking for red barns and just thinking about a song around that idea. So
what a time to be alive. That's
yeah,
none of
yeah,
this would be possible with
yeah,
that. It's pretty wild.
yeah, yeah,
So you could say pretty. I mean, it seems to me like Suno has, like, in and of itself, kind of shifted your entire hobby slash like your free time, because you're doing. I mean, you're creating an enormous amount of art. You're doing all of
yeah,
the
yeah,
writing portion of it manually, meaning that you must be writing pretty often, spending a fair amount of time of your free time basically writing music. Well, you
yeah,
run out of credits at some point, and then you get to take a little break, I guess.
yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it totally depends. It totally depends on I don't know, just my thoughts. Like that album that I did recently that I really like, Midwestern Music
Yeah.
Man, was like 10 songs I just banged out in like 2 days or something, which is, you know, probably people that follow me were probably upset about seeing Alex Ayers show up in their feed like nonstop. So
Yeah, they all came out right at
yeah,
once. I remember, yeah, it was good though.
yeah, they all came out right at once. Yeah, and I liked it. And some of that stuff is like, I don't know. I think I almost sat down and just wrote those things
One after the
just
other.
one after another without even really having to think. Like that song, my favorite song, which unfortunately is Vocaloid, that the computer in the loop
Yes, Computer in the Loop is
was
good.
essentially like it's a
Which one
stream of
was?
consciousness writing the entire song.
Hang on, let's go into Midwestern music now. Vocal in the Loop. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember. Okay, my favorites are, of course. I mean, you can see here which ones I've liked the best. Well, it looks like I liked basically all of them, but on Spotify, the ones that I have saved are these last two,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and I recommend anybody to check it. I'll put a link in this for the Patreon or whatever. But Computer in the Loop is that one is amazing.
yeah, yeah. I like that
Uh,
one.
that one was. I mean, it's so. It's yeah. It's like very. I don't know. It's like real. It's like I was able to relate to it right away. I think it's a great song. Okay, so last thing I guess is there anyone other than me and you, our music? Is who would you recommend? Like whose music do you like on Suno that you would recommend somebody
Uh,
go listen to?
so the one guy, I don't know if they're a guy. The person you found that I like is Commander Moth.
Commander Moth.
Like
Oh
Commander
yeah, Commander
Moth.
Moth.
Yeah, 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 Commander Moth. And I was like, to give some details on this, so like Commander Moth, I followed Commander Moth, and then Commander Moth followed me, and
Yes.
then I don't know why. I think I kind of go through these like sleaze wave phases, and then Commander Moth unfollowed me, and I was like, oh man, I lost Commander Moth,
Woo!
and so that's the song Deviant is about basically losing Commander Moth.
Oh my
So
gosh.
if Commander Moth ever sees this,
Yeah, I hope Commander Moth
yeah, I was like,
accepts it.
I was like,
I'm pretty
oh,
sure Commander Moth
I
is
was
a
like,
woman. If I had to take a guess, Commander Moth, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess I might just be biased though. But I hate to assume people, but some people it's like I'm pretty sure your life experience is just too, it's not something that I don't know. I've read a lot of writing, but
yeah, yeah, they're just doing like just wild stuff. I really
yeah,
like it. Like I don't know if they're doing like wild music so much as just like crazy lyrics.
yeah, the lyrics are.
Like the
And
lyrics
they had
there,
a lot of
like
poop in their lyrics for a while, or was it Commander Moth that had the poop in there? I can't remember, but it was like it would be like this like amazing song, and then it would just be this thing about like shitting your pants, and like I was like, well, at least they're talking about that. People have shit their pants.
someone's gonna, yeah, yeah. Speaking the
Somebody's.
truth there.
Oh, it's great.
There's there's that like that hardcore punk guy. I think you introduced me to the guy whose avatar is like Resident, and he's in like a
Oh, oh,
let me
oh,
see.
oh, the Cambodian one. That
Is he
yeah,
Cambodian?
they're either Cambodian or they might not be Cambodian, but they're my favorite songs by them are
Elated
Elated, yeah,
Elated
Australia,
Library.
Elated Library. You know what? I actually got notifications of them. Like, I wasn't sure if they knew that we even were like listening to them and stuff. And then when that big notification debacle happened and all the likes came through, I
Oh
saw
yeah,
Elated Librarian in there a bunch of times. I was like, yes, like
yeah,
I hope they saw that.
yeah. I mean that's
They're
the
on the
thing.
playlist because whew, I'm a fan. Um,
Yeah, I do say like yeah I do. I think you guys have talked to us before. Like who do the people that you like that other people don't know, and it's like when they like your stuff. Like if Commander Moth likes one of my songs, I'm like, oh man,
yeah,
Commander Moth liked my track.
That's how I
Like
felt.
Commander Moth is cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
It's so funny. They're like I think people on Suno forget, and this is I like the way you think about it too. Is like they're like, oh, these people are big and these people. So I'm like, we're all like very small. But like some people, I'm
oh
like,
yeah
your work
yeah
is so good. Like when they like my stuff, I'm just like, whoosh, like Commander Moth and a Lady Librarian are both definitely in that category. That's it's good. It was nice to
yeah,
see
and
that they
that's
actually listened.
yeah. No, it's great, and they don't strike me as the type of people that are going to just click like on a track if they
Right,
don't like your track, right? They're
right,
not going to
right.
waste their time. So I think that's yeah
It's nice. All right,
yeah
well, awesome. I think that was basically it. That's all the questions. But I'll feature. Well, I'll feature my favorite songs of yours on there as well. We're gonna
okay
put the other guy in. Yeah, my notes say that's everything. We got your songwriting in there. We got the you don't for Suno you don't use Udio, I'm guessing, or are you only on Suno at the
no,
moment?
I've tried it like I've checked it out when you said check this stuff out, but I
Yeah,
haven't really. It sounded like really tinny to me, like the melodies it was creating at the time I tried it, and I was like, no. And I also found the interface to be like way too complicated
yeah, yeah.
for
It's a
what I've
lot
been
more complex.
trying to do.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, I think it probably lets you do a lot of cool stuff if you want to spend the time.
right.
But like, I'm already doing technical stuff for work. I don't want to come
Yeah.
home and do more technical
Do more
stuff for my
technical stuff.
hobby.
Yeah, no,
So
I think that's a
yeah,
very valid perspective. I get the same when I have Suno credits and I have Udio credits. I often will spend my Suno credits first, just because it's just easier, and I get good music out of
yeah,
it, and I
yeah,
just want to chill. The Udio ones, I have to like motivate myself. So I just was curious because I wanted to see if you have an Udio account. I want to check that out as well and post a link to it. All right, man. Well, it was great. I'm gonna go be sick and sleep a
yeah.
bunch.
Feel better.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, that's Alex Ayers. Bye, everybody.